know my destiny.
Hello, everyone. How are we doing? Happy Wednesday. I have a very, very special podcast for you today. I have a Squaddie on to talk about her experience in Manchester at One Young World. So get ready for a fun one today. Don't forget to hit the thumbs up button and the subscribe button if you haven't already subscribed. And let's make sure to give a warm welcome to our guests, one of whom is going to be talking live on the podcast, and the other one who is in the chat. So I have Kate, who is going to be on live, and Elizabeth, her sister, who is going to be in the chat box. So please give a warm welcome to our guest today, please. And I guess I should start with clearing something up. So Kate and Elizabeth were at the One Young World conference, although we're outside because they wanted to try and get a glimpse of Harry and Meghan. Unfortunately, we know that there were also some haters and trolls there as well. And unfortunately, Kate's sister, Elizabeth, was mistaken for one of those trolls. So you see the lady in the front there with the microphone. That was the troll, the infamous one that's gone viral, and that's Kate's sister in the background. And I just want to make it clear that she is not a troll. She is a Squaddie. So I think it's important that, you know, as much as we feel very protective of Harry and Meghan, it's just important that when we're kind of tweeting things out, that for those of you that have social media accounts, especially some of the bigger accounts, just to be very, very careful, because we don't want anyone innocent to get caught, in the crossfire, or to be, wrongly accused of being a mean person. So please do be careful, because obviously, between us squaddies, we can work things out between our ourselves, and just say, okay, it was a misunderstanding, but perhaps you could actually put someone's face and name out there and actually do some damage. And I don't think either Harry and Meghan, would want that. So thank you to everyone who either deleted the pictures or just added context. And please just make sure um, that you're careful when you're tweeting things like this. So, without further ado, please give a warm welcome to Kate, everyone.
Hello, everyone. Nice to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
No, thank you for coming on, Kate. So, I guess before we get into your experience of the day, I want to take things back a little bit, and I guess I want to ask you first and foremost, what's your relationship been with the royal family, and how you perceive the royal family throughout your life, from as far back as you can remember, and then moving all the way forward to now?
Yeah, sure. Well, my sister and I were born in the 60s, and we grew up with the royal family, with the Queen, and the respect that she deserved at the time. But that changed once Diana came on the scene, and you can see how Diana's life evolved. And I think that was a change in my thought process as well about the royal family. And we all know how that ended for her. And I think since the Diana's death, the royal family has been a huge issue for me. And I've lost its direction. I don't understand it anymore. But Harry sort of brought that interest back. So in a way, I guess Harry has given me, renewed my interest in the royal family. He gives me an alternative royal family, shall we say?
Mm,
Is that,
mm,
we've
yeah,
always been, and I have always been supporters of Diana, always. And,
yeah,
it was such a loss to the royal family. The fact that,
yeah.
she took them in and she modernized them, but then they're not for changing. And I think she brought
Mm,
serious issues to them. We all know how what she brought to them. And I think Harry
mm.
now, he's offering the same thing as Diana offered.
Yes,
So,
and how take me back to the day that you found out that Diana had passed, and the week leading up to her funeral. What was that
oh
like
gosh,
for you?
I can tell you an absolute hilarious story, but I won't. It involved, we had friends staying over for the evening, and my sister rang me very, very early in the morning, as her husband
Mm,
was on duty as a police officer in Manchester, and she rang extremely early to give me to break the news. And I remember getting out of bed and just going in to tell our friends that the news, and they came in, and we're all four in my bedroom just sat watching a very tiny TV.
yeah.
That was it. That's how I remember it, by that. And having a small child at the time as well, it was just horrendous to deal with. And that,
Mm,
the funeral and that leading up to how the Queen and the royal family behaved, it just summed up everything for me,
mm,
really, about them. And I think I've never felt the same after that. But
yeah.
things have changed, haven't they? We've
Mm,
moved on to Harry and Meghan now, so that's my royal
yeah.
family, shall I say?
Fantastic. And so, okay, so let's fast forward now. Meghan comes onto the scene. There's rumors of Harry with this new girl. What's your kind of like first reaction?
Oh, brilliant! Total huge fan of Suits, so I knew exactly who he was dating. What an
Oh, nice.
independent
Okay.
woman! Absolutely independent. She oozed class, didn't she? And
Mm,
she was articulate. She could command a room. So I knew he'd met, his soulmate by that. Meghan offered Harry, what can I say, the perfect partner. She could do it
mm,
all, and speaking in public was not an issue. And he knew that she would be able to step up. And but it turned wrong, didn't it, in the end? But yeah, Harry met the perfect partner in her, I would say. She's just been amazing to the royal family, just amazing.
And at what point did you realize that there's something fishy going on with the way the press is treating Meghan?
I think straight away, from day one, from when that letter went out from Harry. They'd only been dating
Yeah.
a very short while, and he was already writing to the press. And I don't think it improved since then. And when you see the fact that she's killed the whole world with eating an avocado, what do you expect? You know it's going down. You know, at the end of the day, the press that Diana got, you know, it was ruthless, and they've just not learned, have they? So, you know,
Yes.
Meghan gets my respect for how she's actually risen above it, you know, if that's what you want to call it, rising above it. And they don't like it, do they? You know, but we
No.
do. So that's all that matters.
Yes, and you and your sister took the day out to go down to Manchester. So do you whereabouts are you based? Is it far for you to get to Manchester?
Yes, absolutely. I live in a place called Walkden, Worsley, which is about 8
Okay.
miles from Manchester. My sister lives a little bit further on. We both decided that we've never experienced a royal visit as such before. And even in our time with Diana, I never had the opportunity to do this. So we knew that we couldn't let Harry and Meghan visit Manchester without making that effort to go. I have no idea what it was like. And we decided we'd go in the morning and take sandwiches. It'd be a full day. We didn't know what time they were arriving. And then early morning, there was a press release to say it was going to be a live coverage at 6. So we knew then they wouldn't be arriving before 6 p.m. So what we decided to do, we got there for lunchtime and we sat outside the GMEX in Manchester. And there was amazing crowds there, you know, part of the One World group. And we just people watched for a little while. We met some royal family supporters. And I say that generally because they loved everybody in the royal family, loved everybody. Kate, William. And I think my sister's head swiveled 360 degrees when they said they adored Kate and William. And then we just had to fill them in on a few things that they didn't seem to be aware of. But after that, they still adored Kate and William. So I just thought, you know, they were really nice people. And generally speaking, they just loved the royal family. And I think all credit to that. You know, I'm not going to be there to try and change their opinion. They're entitled to that opinion. But we weren't there for that. We were there just to support Harry and Meghan. So we later found out that the venue was going to be the Bridgewater Hall, as originally stated. So we just moved locations and the barriers were there waiting, all set up. And we just leaned on the barrier and just watched the world go by. And we met some other ladies who brought dogs with them. And they wanted to chat with Meghan, but whether that was going to happen or not, we thought she might give a polite wave. But there wasn't many crowds, if I'm honest. You know, they were scattered. And then the press arrived, and a lady came to Elizabeth and I and said, "Oh, you've been here a long time, haven't you?" And we said, "Yes." She said, "I'm from the Times. Can I interview you?" Oh my God, that was amazing. We didn't hold back. We started off at Charles. We went through Andrew. We talked about William. I mean, and her face was like, she looked sick. But then we tried to say that we're Harry and Meghan supporters, you know, and that's why we're here. And we want to wish them all the best. And like my sister said, give a Mancunian welcome. And she said she took a photograph and she said she would actually print it. But, you know, the next day when the article went there, it was just a one-line comment.
Really? Okay.
None of it was staged. We just said that we don't respect the royal family anymore. We struggle with them. They're out of date, out of touch. You know, we didn't hold back. And we felt quite happy about that, actually. It was the first time we could get it off our chests. So that was quite interesting.
But it never actually made the article, right?
The article was there about Elizabeth and I being there, and just that we're there to welcome Harry and Meghan, and that's all they said, really.
Right.
They didn't say any of our criticisms, which probably I knew they wouldn't really. And then she went off into the Bridgewater Hall, and that's when we got to meet some more ladies who were gathering, who were Sussex squad members, I would say.
Nice.
and we just got chatting to them, and it was a great atmosphere. But nobody knew on the security side which entrance they would come in. Nobody had any security details, so we just had to sit it out completely.
Right. And did you come into contact with any of the notorious trolls who were like, did you actually was there any confrontation between people?
Yes, we did. We did not while in the early afternoon while we were waiting before we realised that they were entering round the back. We came in contact with Chris Ship. Would you like me to
Oh yes, I've got that picture. Yeah, please do it. Tell us all the tea about Chris Ship.
Gosh, he was so smooth. I kept pointing to him, and he must have seen me pointing to him. And my sister and I were giggling about him, actually. We were just saying to ourselves, we were just saying that, I think in all fairness for Chris, he tries to be balanced. I think he tries, but he could do better. And that's what we think about him. He has his moments of fairness, but they're not very often. And anyway, he saw me pointing, so he came over, and we got a quick photograph with my sister. But he went into the venue. He left us and went into the venue, and within a moment or so, he came back out again, and just wandered hours in the afternoon. Just wandered on his own, aimlessly, like Billy No Mates. Like, where do I go from here? And I can't answer why he didn't stay in the venue with the other reporters. I mean, there was no reason why he came back out again, because he had nothing to do. And we just got chatting to him. He said he didn't have any security details. He didn't know what was going on. He kept tweeting on his phone. And that was his, he spent about 3 hours just walking around on his own. And I wondered, you could question why he didn't stay at the event with Omid. That was interesting.
Did you just kind of get the impression that the other reporters there and Chris just didn't really have any access?
Possibly. I think that when he came out straight away, I would guess his name wasn't on the list. That's my only assumption of that. But, we don't know for sure, do we? And then we talked to him quite regularly, because he sort of hovered because he didn't have anybody else to talk to. So we just caught him here and there and said, any more news, any updates? But he knew nothing. And it just showed you that he's not in the loop anymore. You've got to
Sorry, go on.
I said, you've got to remember he's a raw reporter, so he should know stuff, but he didn't know anything. And then whilst we were still waiting, Omid walked through the barriers to head towards Bridgewater Hall. So I called Omid over, and initially he saw Elizabeth and I just waiting with a few other ladies. I saw his face and he looked worried. And I was wondering whether he would think we were deranged, should we call ourselves? And I just wondered whether he thought that, because he did look, I would say, look frightened to death. And I called him over, and I just said, he said, hello. And I said, oh, Omid, I just want to say to you a huge thank you for everything you do for Harry and Meghan, and how difficult it must be for you. And his face just like went at peace that he was with. He was with he looked so relieved. And, I couldn't take my eyes off his face. He was flawless. And we covered a lot of topics with Omid. I asked him, it was like an interview for him. I just said to him, how do you feel about your role with supporting Harry and Meghan? And he said sometimes, on occasions, it felt like he was backed in a corner and on his own. And that's how he felt. I talked about Jenny Bond because on Sunday I'd heard the interview for the BBC over breakfast time, and I was appalled. And, she was so cruel about Meghan. She was saying, if anybody else watched it, of the ladies out there, she was commenting about Meghan should shut up, and she's turning out just like a dad. And there was not a nice word that came out of her mouth, really. And Omid said, she's got a job to do. And I went, really? What's that? Just to be a mean person. And he just said, she has a job to do. And that's all he said. So I just said, well, I found it horrendous. So we sort of like had that in a few minute chat. And then this gentleman came, tapped him on the back and said, we've got to go in. And I just said, "Excuse me, but we want a photograph before you go." So I made I made the gentleman who was pulling into one side to take the photograph, which was great. So that's the best bit and the highlight of the day really, was meeting Omid, I guess. That was super good.
That's so eye-opening, the fact that he would say she's got a job to do, and it's just so that really pulls at my soul, that for someone
It did
that is
mine,
literally
yeah.
their job to pull someone down. And it just proves what we've been saying all this time, like the hate campaign around Meghan is it's a money making machine.
Well, you only need to look at Angela Levin to realise that, don't you? Because she's on every station
Mm,
going, and all she
mm,
does is just, talk negatively and hurtful and vile
mm.
comments, and she's getting money for saying that. So he's right; it's a job for them. So I think he
Yeah.
was spot on with it, really. No matter how
Mm.
horrible it may have sounded, he was spot on.
Their
So yeah.
job is literally to hate. So, in for the squaddies who are planning on perhaps trying to, because obviously there's still the Well Child event. I think that's tomorrow. Do you think if they were to try and get close to Harry and Meghan, in the UK, that would be possible? Did you get the sense that the security was just like ironclad?
No, there was a gentleman. What happened was we got some sort of rumours that they were going in round the back. So we quickly, all the group of ladies that we were with, who were the Meghan and Harry supporters, we quickly walked round the side and we saw a group of about 30 people. And then to one side, there was a van with Rule Britannia van, something like that, and it had this speaker on, Rule Britannia coming out on live speaker, and the police were trying to deal with it because it was horrendously loud, and I think that was quite shocking, really, and the police were
Yeah.
trying to get them to turn it off. But as we walked round, I chatted to the security guy who was with Harry and Meghan. Now he's in Dusseldorf and he's American, and I've seen him on a couple of odd photographs here and there. So he's their security, part of their security team. And I just said, "Can you help? We've been here all day. Can you advise us? Is it going to be wasting our time waiting here?" And he said, the only people who know about Harry and Meghan are the drivers and Harry and Meghan. They
Wow.
don't tell anybody anything. And I would say they've made the decision, and I sort of got the impression it didn't really matter to Harry and Meghan about the crowds. They were here for that One World event, and
Mm,
to meet supporters in the UK, I'm not sure, because they wouldn't be able to read the room, and the
yes.
crowd. It was a mixed bag, and as we got nearer to them, you could tell, you could feel it, and the 3-car convoy arrived in silence, really, and it was a bit of a shock. And all we saw them quickly maneuver the cars into the side entrance, and the whole crowd followed them, screaming. And you know, I promised myself I wouldn't scream, "I love you, Megan." I promised myself that I was going to scream, "We believe in you. We have faith in you." And as soon as I got there, I said, "I love you, Megan. I love you." I knew it. I knew it. I knew it would come out. Hey, but there was a guy behind me and he was booing and booing. And I turned
Mm,
around and I just said, "Why are you doing this?" And he just laughed in my face because he could, and then within a
yeah,
second, they'd gone. So it was a non event for
yeah,
us, really. But despite the disappointment about not seeing them, we had a fabulous day. We met some lovely
yeah,
people, and like-minded people who want, to feel the love in the room for Harry and Meghan. And yeah, there are those haters out there, but you can tell them. You can tell who they are.
yeah,
We had a fabulous time, Elizabeth and I. We just loved it. It was exciting. We'd never done it before. I wish I was
mm,
in Dusseldorf, because that looked amazing, those crowds. And that could
mm,
have been us in the UK, but the crowds just weren't there. They weren't
yeah,
there. They
yeah.
weren't. And it's sad. Yeah.
It's
We
interesting
thought,
you say that the security was basically just saying, nobody knows of Harry, Meghan and their drivers, and I think it just shows the level to which they really can't trust anybody here in the UK. And unfortunately, I don't these pictures that we've seen coming out of Dusseldorf, I don't think we'll ever get that here in the UK, because even if they got this armed security that they wanted and Harry paid for it, can they actually trust anybody here? That's the question I have, because it seems like that's not the case.
Yeah, I turned round to Chris Ship after they'd gone in, because I could see him to the side. And I remember going up to him and saying, "Oh, come on, Chris, you're telling me you didn't know anything?" And he said, "No, I had no clue whatsoever." He just walked back on his own.
Squaddies, you heard it here. You heard it here.
And he knew nothing, but he was prepared to do the legwork and walk up and down and do whatever he was doing, because he's obviously paid for it. So that was interesting. But yeah, so we just went home, not just a little deflated, but I've made some new friends now, and I've contacted them on Instagram, and happy. So it's been a good experience.
Fantastic. And do you you won't do it again, or at least here in the UK, but do you have any plans to go to Invictus next year or to the Vancouver Games?
Oh, do you know, we've talked about Invictus. That would be lovely if it's something that could be pulled up. But going on your own. When Liz and I just arrived back in Manchester and there was nobody else there, it felt sad. It felt sad. So I think Invictus, if you're going to go there as a supporter of the Successes, you're going to have to go in a group, because you feed off that group. It makes it all worthwhile. The Invictus Games is a huge success for Harry. So, I have no worries about not being there, if that makes sense.
Great. And go on.
No, I wanted to say that if there was any interest in the Invictus Games, it'd be something that I might think about. Yeah. And there's more fun in numbers. That's all I shall say.
Yes, absolutely. And I know that some squaddies have been talking about potentially going in groups. So I think it's good to start to get to know people and kind of form good connections and so hopefully by the time, in the months leading up to, if you want to book things together or organize things together, then it'll be a much smoother operation to go in groups. But I also just want to go on.
Can I touch on something about what Elizabeth and I did in May? We went to London. We made an appointment at Parliament to go and speak with a MP, Holly. For life of me, I can't remember her last name. My sister will know it. She can put it in the chat. And she was the original MP for Labour who raised the letter. And she got 80 signatures from female MPs, and it was around the negative press on Harry and Meghan. And we wanted to talk to her to say, what can we do now? What are you doing to escalate that? Are you following it up? And the answer was no. And she just said she had no influence in Parliament whatsoever. And she bounced it back to us to say, start your own movement, basically. It was interesting going to Parliament to meet her, to say, listen, the public, and we're general public and we don't like it, and what can we do about it? So it was a good experience that in some respects. So it just shows you how serious Elizabeth and I are about trying to do something.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for giving your best efforts. And if that's something that you wanted to do again, or try to take it to the next level, for sure, myself and anyone else who I think have big accounts would be more than happy to support you and get some kind of petition, serious petition going, because at this point it's not even about just Harry and Meghan. And I think this is something that Meghan touched upon in her winning statement when she won against the Daily Mail, that this is about everyone, and the fact that these news corporations should not have the right to just use their press credentials to bully people and ruin somebody's name. So thank you very much for your best efforts. And if we want to move forward with something more of a group effort, I think that's something that I'd be more than happy to support.
Absolutely. And I think that's something we could start, if we put it out there. I think she said something like 10,000 signatures gets a comment in Parliament and gets discussion. So it might seem a lot, 10,000. I don't know whether it's doable or not, but that's what you get to get a discussion going in Parliament. So she bounced it back to us.
Well, I mean, there's 10,000 people just subscribed to this channel. I think there's 17,000 subscribed to Baron. So
Really? Wow. Yeah.
I think it's more than possible. And yes, I think it's like 10,000 to get a mention, and then it's like
Yes. Yeah.
100,000 if it gets 100,000, then it's actually debated like
Yes. Yes.
in like the big prime
Yeah.
minister's questions, like that whole thing, right?
Yeah. I think
But
that's
I think yeah. So I think it's most definitely possible, and I think if we were to collaborate with, other organizations like Bylines Investigates, and also I think there's another organization called, is it Hacked Off, who are dealing with the whole phone hacking News of the World
Oh,
scandal. They're
really?
still going.
Really? Right. That, it's a
Yeah, and
start
there's
of this conversation, really, isn't it?
yeah. And well,
Mm.
thank you so much, Kate. If you want to get going, you can get going. But also I have another lady at who was at Manchester as well. So if you want to
Oh,
stay
of
on
course.
and just comment,
Yes, please. Yeah, I'd like that very much. Thank
yeah,
you.
for sure. All right. So I've also got Paula D. Now, for those of you who are on um Twitter, Paula D is quite active, and she did the Lord's work on the Day of Young One World, and basically was tweeting and live streaming the whole day, and was there to witness all of the wonderful things and also all of the mess. So Paula, please welcome to the live stream.
Hiya, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
How are you guys doing today?
Fantastic. If you could just I think you've got a TV in the background.
Yeah, is it bothering you?
Yeah, you can hear it.
Oh, apologies. I'll just get that on mute.
No worries.
For God's sake. Oh, sorry.
No worries. This is actually Paula's tweet here on the screen for those of you who are watching on YouTube.
Right.
And Paula was there tweeting the whole day.
Yeah, I turned up to the venue at about 3 o'clock. It weren't very busy at the time, but it was evident that there were a couple people there that were there to cause trouble. This now infamous woman was there with her megaphone, and well, as time went on, that's when the Britain First van came. But it seemed that there were communication between the trolls that were there and the Britain First. And
Right.
I remember seeing the other lady that you've just spoken to, and I seen her on the other side of the entrance. I was at the back entrance, going to and fro, but it seems like most of the cameras were set out at the back. I had a word with Chris, Ship, and Lizzie, and they kind of hinted at at that particular entrance. But my experience was that the media, I'm not going to say all the media because some of them were really well behaved, but a lot of the media were there to basically egg on the trolls. And I believe at one point, because the noisy woman was stood next to me, the woman in the green dress rang her up, because as much as we were doing the thing of going to the front entrance to the back entrance, so too were the media, because it was evident that they had absolutely no clue of where the Sussexes was going to be. I also went to the Piccadilly, hoping to catch a bit of the train coming in. But by the time I got there, they'd already their plane had already their train had already arrived. I spoke to the guys at the gate, 3 men. They said that the Sussexes arrived at 2:30, but they got off at a different VIP entrance, not on the main platform. There were photographers, cameramen set up all across the city, from the train station to I seen them outside various hotels also. Do you know the posher looking hotels?
Right.
Yeah. I didn't get to see them. I got to see a bit of Harry at the end when they went into the vehicle. But I second what the previous Squaddie said. For even though we didn't get to see them, it was quite an exciting experience. It was quite
Nice.
intimidating uh, early on, also. But what was really lovely to see is that the Britain First, the chaos of that woman brought so many people to the crowds, not to join in, but against those troublemakers. So one woman we spoke
Nice.
to, she was just on her way home from work in her jeans and her trainers, and she heard the booing because basically a decoy was sent to the entrance, and those people started booing at the decoys. But it turned
Oh,
out it
that's
was
so.
just three empty vehicles, and as everybody was screaming and shouting at those empty vehicles, the Sussexes went through on an entirely different third kind of entrance.
Oh, that is so clever.
Yeah, it was, and there were people, like I said, on coming home on the way from work, and just noticed the booing, wanted to see what it was about, found out that Meghan and Harry were going to be there, and some people were booing them, and they just stayed because they like Harry and Meghan, and they wanted to show their support against people who they saw was really vile. And that was really lovely. By the end of the night, by like 8 p.m., because I stayed till after the speech, the trolls had gone by. Harry and Meghan luckily came out through that entrance. No decoy this time, and it was just a whole lot of cheers and love for them. So I'm glad to see that they missed the earlier commotion, and instead their experience was met with just a whole lot of joy and shouting. The Britain First people were incredibly aggressive, including against the police,
Wow.
because GMP basically they were circling round playing God Save the Queen, and then they came to the roadside where we were by.
Oh, sorry, Paula. Sorry, I think you're cutting a little.
Oh,
Sorry, you cut out a
sorry.
little bit. Go ahead.
Can you hear me
No
better
worries.
now?
I can hear you now. Yeah, I can hear you better now.
Okay. Yeah. So after they first did this thing where they were circling, going really slowly, playing God Save the Queen, and then they just parked up, waiting and playing the music. And so I guess the police were called in. So one police vehicle came with two coppers. They refused to move. They refused to open their windows. They refused to open the door. They called in reinforcements, and so another police vehicle came. And when the other police came, and obviously he had his backup, they rolled down the window on the passenger side. They were written up with a ticket and asked to move. They moved, but only a few yards. And they moved from the spot that they were told, drove a few yards, and parked up a bit at the front, still in distance, just to be kind of, or that's how it came across, just to be kind of a bit aggressive.
Right.
But luckily, the police seem to have been expecting trouble, because from the time I reached the city, there were police, tactical units, dog units everywhere scattered around the city, far more than usually is. Not just the usual coppers driving by, but parked up on various street corners.
Right. And so can I just ask either of you can answer this question.
Yeah.
So the Britain First protesters who were there, did you get the impression that they were just there for Harry and Meghan, or they were protesting the whole event in general? Because it obviously was an event about diversity and kind of global community coming together. So was it directed just at Harry and Meghan, or just the whole event in general?
I chatted with my sister about this, and my thoughts were is that it was about the event more than Harry and Meghan,
Right.
the One World event and the diversity of the event, and that was my thoughts really. But I enjoy listening just to a different perspective of the same evening. It was quite interesting, really. From just sat listening here now, and it was quite interesting. So thank you for that.
That was also my thing. Initially, it seemed like they were there initially for the event as opposed to Harry and Meghan. However, they quickly started communicating in a way that seemed like it weren't the first time to specifically the women that was with her who made a scene. She wore a blue dress and a blue
Yes, there was
jacket.
another woman, right? I don't.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't actually have the picture of her, but what Paula is referring to, there was another woman who was in a black jacket with the woman who was in with the microphone.
Yeah, there was, and she was like going to and fro, and she seemed quite not like you just met these people for the first time, in my opinion. But the media were really, really badly behaved. The paparazzi was so disparaging. I could see how these same people were calling. I believe Megan 100% that people call it. These paps were calling Archie the N word because they were saying such bitter, awful, vitriolic stuff about her as they were stood
Right.
waiting to get her picture.
Wow.
There was certain media that was Seven News Australia, and I think it was Nine, something with a 9 and an AU. They were only interested in the trolls. The woman in the green, she's a media woman also. She was only interested in trolls and people that were out there to boo Harry and Meghan. If she'd go around asking people, are you here to boo them? And if they say no, she'd immediately move on to the next person. But if they were there to boo, which there weren't very many, yeah, she'd spend a lot of time like speaking to them. I know most people don't want to hear this, but Chris Shipp, Lizzie, and there was a woman there from Hits Radio UK. I'm not sure if you are familiar with the radio station. They were the only ones that were willing to take a statement or do a bit of filming of anyone that was there to support Harry and Meghan on the side on the entrance that I was on.
Right. Wow. That's interesting to know. Well, to the both of you, thank you so much for your time today and giving us a first-hand account. I think it's just actually proven just how important it is to have Sussex supporters like go and see things for ourselves and kind of be like our own version of on-the-ground reporters. So thank you to you both, and I will ask each of you. Kate, you can go first.
Yes.
In less than a minute, your opinions on what happens going forward with the royal family, especially as we get closer and closer to the time where, unfortunately, the Queen will pass.
Oh, great opportunity. Thank you for that. Going forward, the Queen pass and Charles gets so super excited of becoming king. Well, what he doesn't realise, he's got an evil son, William, in the background. And William will turn on Charles and do exactly the same he did to Harry. So I think Charles got to watch his back with William. He won't sit down quietly, I don't think. And we'll just watch the fun and games from a distance. But let's hope it's the end of the monarchy after Charles.
Right. Okay. And Paula D.
Personally, I think there's a bit of a throne grab going on right now. I'm in two minds about it because on the one hand, I'm not a supporter of the monarchy, but the reality is that we do have a monarchy.
Yes.
And I prefer personally Not because I prefer him as a person, but I think Charles will make a better king than William at the minute.
Oh, absolutely.
However, I think there's a proper throne grab going on, and I think that William has a lot of people on his side. As someone who lives in the UK, it's quite a scary concept to think of having someone with that amount of power, obviously knowing that a king has more power than a queen. That's so unstable and angry and not diplomatic. I think there's troubled waters ahead for them. I think the reality of their situation will start to sink in once the Queen unfortunately passes, because I think for a long time she stopped a lot of people being vocal about their criticisms of the monarchy. And it's weird. Oh, sorry, it was just 10 seconds. Oh, never mind.
That's okay. I'll let you finish quickly. Go on.
Yeah, I think that would spell bad news for us who live here if he were to get in early. It's weird how they don't see how much they need Harry, but I guess it speaks to how problematic this institution still is. I don't think they have any place in here in the modern day, if I'm honest. And when I see William's kids, all I see is that in 15, 20 years' time, we're going to have another issue, whether it's jealousy, whether it's a wife one particularly doesn't like, and we're going to have that same systematic abuse that happens with each and every single generation. And so I think they need winning, to be honest.
Okay, fantastic.
I'm sorry, can I just come in two last things? I promise, just very quickly.
Go on.
My sister and I always say, once the Queen's gone, the gloves are off with the press, and I think that Charles and William will be with a rough ride from the press, definitely. And I just think it's not over yet. I think that despite the hidden contract, but also if you want to do another podcast and we could talk about the evil medias, particularly GB News and
that would be fantastic.
I'd love to join in on that one because I have a lot of thoughts on that. But thank you very much. It's been amazing.
Oh no, thank you both for taking out your time. I have loved this conversation, and absolutely, ladies, if you want to come back on and have a whole other conversation about the British media, we can definitely do that, because it's I think it's a conversation that's needed. And I'll just give my personal final 2 cents. I'm somebody that does very much love tradition and keeping certain traditions alive, but just taking out the bad parts. And what I would hope eventually is what we could have what a lot of the other countries that had monarchies or continue to have monarchies but have consolidated their power have, and that's where we can keep the pomp and pageantry and the tradition alive, but just take away the toxic people at the center of those traditions. That's what I would personally like. But with that, thank you both ladies for coming on. Thank you all of the Squaddies for staying and listening and supporting as you always do. Thank you to the mods for keeping this a safe space. I will be doing another podcast in the evening, probably around 9:30, just to update you on all the other updates of today. It doesn't look like Harry and Meghan have anything on their schedule for today, but who knows, they might pop up. So thank you once again, everyone, and have a fantastic day. I know you guys love the music, so I'll put the music so we can dance out to the music. Okay, see you later. Ciao.
I know I rested up in my soul. I feel a love for you that's out of control. Sometimes I feel like I can make you whole. I just can't change my emotions. There isn't anything I wouldn't do to prove that everything I say is true. And if you let me, I keep loving you. I just can't change my emotions. Come on, love me I've ever heard of in my life.
You're already there, literally on the street arguing about Meghan Markle. She's here successful, she's here successful, she's here successful.